Welcome back to our live stream here at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue. I'm the veterinarian for the facility, Dr. Dan Famini. And so right next door to the raccoons, where we spent some time a couple weeks ago, we have our mountain lion enclosure. And so today is going to be all about mountain lions, all about the apex predator in our environment, how important they are, as well as the logistics and realities of caring for a couple captive mountain lions that we have here for the express purpose of helping our general community understand these very alluring, very important components of our native ecosystem. And so I'm just going to pivot around, and so you can see here we have the back edge of our mountain lion enclosure. So we're going to walk on back towards this enclosure is actually divided into three areas. Four technically. We have our double door area, which is our safe access point. We have the den box. We have the small yard. And then we have the large yard.
I keep getting phone calls. I think there's an intake down the hill. Sorry.
All right. And so I'm just going to enter into our small yard here, our double door. So every enclosure, we always have this double door system so that we can enter into this spot in that secondary containment in case there was some animal that was loose and was about to bolt. We wouldn't ever enter this area if we did have a loose animal just nearby, but it's there just as a precaution. And so our resident animals have access to either their den house or their yard, basically 24/7, basically all day. And we're going to spend almost all of today out in their large yard, but I'll show you a quick peek into the den house. This is where, if it is inclement weather and an animal wants to get away, they can sequester themselves. Also, if we had to confine one, say for a medical injury, then this is a very controlled environment that we could use. And so inside, you'll notice we have bedding here with straw. We'll also add enrichment such as different pine branches or whatnot to be a bit more interesting to them. We have sliding doors, individual doors that we can have for each mountain lion individually, as well as the large access where we can see them through. Over here. So that's the den house. And so if a mountain lion wants to get away from any place that could be viewed by a lot of individuals, that is there. And so if you want to slide over that way a little bit, we do have a special treat for our mountain lions today, and so you can just hold there.
Okay.
And so part of what we'll be putting out for our mountain lions is these Smelt Sickles. And so it is starting to get to be the warmer part of the year, so some of our enrichment can be things to help our animals cool down. And so we have delicious smelt frozen in a block. Either. And so these, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, a lot of the animals around us navigate largely by scent, and mountain lions do to a fair extent, not as much as some other species. And so we're going to enter into the small yard. And so the mountain lions are actually confined within this yard. And so you can hear our two different mountain lions. And so I'm going to step on over this way. You can see we have these two different kind of mountain lion sized tunnels. And so every day, the mountain lions are coaxed into these little tunnels, and here they're confined so we can go inside, clean out their enclosures, spread out food, etc. Also, these little tunnels allow us to access them for things like vaccines, or if we had to do a major intervention, we could sedate them. And then plus, these side box areas here, these are actually transport boxes. So if we needed to, we could take the mountain lions and if they needed larger medical care. But luckily, these are two very robust, healthy mountain lions. So we can talk about individuals in a little bit. We do have a male and female here on site. Yes, they are spayed and neutered, so we're not trying to have cubs. And so now mountain lions, they do not make a roaring sound. You can hear they will hiss, and they can certainly do a growl and a purr. When they're happy, they can even do a mew kind of sound. And their regular caretakers can solicit that sometimes, but not an infrequent visitor such as myself. And so we're going to head from here. I'm just going to grab our enrichment, and we're going to head into the large yard, where the mountain lions spend the majority of their time. All right, and so here's our primary mountain lion yard. As Victoria, the mountain lion's regular caretaker. Yeah. And so as we're gonna just take a quick stroll through the yard, Victoria will be setting out food in the form of, primarily, this is a diet that is specially for large carnivores. This is used frequently in the zoo world. So this is a pre-manufactured diet that has a mix of skeletal meat, of viscera, of minerals and supplements, so it is a complete diet. We also have a few gophers today. And so yes, mountain lions will eat rats and gophers on occasion, and so they do certainly enjoy them. So that's part of what we have for them to enjoy. And so we do want to encourage the mountain lions to be as active as possible. So instead of just putting the food in the same spots every day, we will take it and take those small meatballs and spread it out throughout the enclosure into a large number of spots. And so you can see the enclosure is pretty long. We also have all the different heights for them, because these are quite agile climbers. Mountain lions can jump a couple people high in terms of how high they can jump. And so they do enjoy using the full topography of this area. And of course, the higher part, we are on an incline. We're on a hill here at most of the facility at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue, and including in the mountain lion enclosure. So part of this is going to be much higher than the other. And so we'll head on over to the far end of the enclosure here. And so we do have multiple different heights for areas for them to relax, and they tend to go for the sunnier corners, which is the farthest corner of our area. And so again, we keep changing out little features of the environment, trying to keep mixing it up so it's as interesting as possible. Are there any questions coming through?
One person asked where they came from.
Gotcha. So both of these are California mountain lions. They both were orphaned as cubs that were too young to be able to be considered for release back to the wild. And so neither of them are Sonoma County. Both came from other parts of the state. But they are native Sonoma County mountain lions. And so mountain lions, being the apex predator of our area, do have a very important role on the ecosystem. And so an apex predator is going to be the top of the food chain. And so the fact that we have apex predators will then change the behavior of their main prey. And the main prey of mountain lions is going to be, number one, venison, deer. And so that's going to be their typical natural diet. And again, they will eat rodents, they will eat smaller prey. And so certainly they have a variety. Typically a mountain lion is going to grab and catch one, and so you can go ahead and follow the food as we're talking. Typically a mountain lion will find and catch one.
Did you want this while I go and station up there?
Sure, yeah, if you want to go get in the spot. And so certainly mountain lions will typically catch one deer, and then they'll cache it, C-A-C-H-E. And so with that cache, they will then hang out for a couple weeks, feeding on that particular individual. And so mountain lions do have a vast and huge range. And so they will tend to have a very large area, and they'll only spend a couple weeks in any spot. So if a mountain lion is seen in one park or one neighborhood, they don't usually hang out there. That's just part of a much larger area. And so there was a question here about body condition score. And so so with these mountain lions here, they're only a couple years old. And so as long as they're healthy and don't have any issues, I do a full sedated exam once every 2 years. And we just had the female's exam just a couple months ago. And her body condition, she was coming in at 84 pounds, and her body condition was just about where we wanted. Just about a 5 out of 9. Now, in the veterinary world, we use a body condition score, a system of, and so just so you know, litter box issues are for big mountain lions too. And so they do tend to have some typical cat-like behavior where they will have the defecation and they'll cover it up. And so that's one of their favorite litter box sites. But I was saying that body condition score, instead of using a body mass index, which is what's utilized in the human world, we'll do a body condition score, which is a number from 1 to 9, expressing how emaciated or overweight an animal is. And so 5 being ideal, 9 being morbidly obese, 1 being emaciated to an extreme. And so these guys did come in right where we wanted them to. And so if you want to scroll back up, see what the latest questions are.
Yeah.
And so being an apex predator, they'll change the behavior of the other species upon which they prey. And so if you had no apex predators around, then the deer could get in excessive numbers. They could overgraze areas. That can change the watershed. One of the most classic examples is going to be the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone. And once they brought the wolves back, that changed the grazing animals, which changed the hydrology of the watershed, and just made the area a much healthier ecosystem. And so the mountain lions are other than humans, the apex predator of our area, and so they do have an important role. We no longer have wolves or big bear or grizzly type bears in Sonoma County, although we do have black bears coming back, so that'll be helpful as well. And so, any other quick questions before I get our other treats?
Yeah, so a couple people asking about rescuing and releasing wild lions.
Mm-hmm.
And then people asking if these guys will be released.
Gotcha. So these guys came in as cubs, and so they're too young to have full survival skills, and so therefore they're not eligible for release. And they've been with us for a year and a half or 2 years, respectively. One of them was actually burned very severely in not the Tubbs fire, but the Southern California fire that year, and actually had most of the skin burned off the paws. And so when we had fires, most of our wildlife had behaviors that were quite safe and protective, where they would flee a wildfire, but some animals were affected. So there were that handful that were affected. And so the biggest issue would be after the fire would sweep through, then animals would come out and they'd step on the hot and burning ground and they'd burn the tissue on the paws. We saw that with domestic cats from the emergency veterinary work I do as well. And so there was a pretty novel, pretty impressive treatment that was done between UC Davis and the state fish and wildlife veterinarian, where they actually used tilapia fish skin as a bandage to help stimulate good growth. And after it got through that critical healing stage, we then transferred the mountain lion here, where it resides with us permanently. And so we are approved for having these mountain lions. It's very uncommon to have approval to have permanent resident mountain lions. And so we're very honored to be able to provide that so that we can help our community learn more about these guys and stay safe. So I'm gonna zip away for 10 seconds to go grab our treats and be right back. If you wanna take a look at the questions while I'm away.
Yeah.
All right, so here we have two different Smelt Sickles here. And so Kelsey is right here in the middle, kind of one of the best spots for one of them.
Yes.
All right, so we'll put one here on this rock, and then we'll hang one from the fence as high as possible. So this is not a treat you guys encounter that often. I know we have this nice smelt juice. We don't want to let this go to waste. This is another form of enrichment. And so we'll just go ahead and spread this out. And then we have our smelt sickle on a stick. So here's one of the biggest popsicles you may see in a little bit. And so a nice summer treat, plenty of smelt. So I'm going to put this as high as I can reach into the fence for our mountain lions to enjoy. All right, let's try here. See how long that will hold. Is that well in view?
It is, yes.
All right, excellent. And again, we have lots of nice smelt juice, so I'm going to spread that around in a couple spots. Put some up high. And let's go for some on this tree. Delicious. All right. So, and so we can talk more about these individuals and mountain lions. And so I'll be with you in just a moment. What I'm going to do is step out of the enclosure so that we can let these mountain lions back in to enjoy their food, enjoy their enrichment, while we learn more about our two individuals. And so we've actually had a big week here at Wildlife Rescue. We now have 64 rehabbing wildlife animals in care, in addition to all of our permanent residents. And so I'm just going to walk right around. I'll be with you about 30 seconds. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kelsey, for reminding me not to leave any foreign objects behind. They would have had quite a time with that. All right, see you, you'll hear me in just a second.
All right, so you guys can see where we're at right now. We've got this little window that we're able to take photos through and provide enrichment from time to time without having to put them in their transport boxes. So. So it looks like Robert asked how high a mountain lion can jump. They can jump about 15 feet high. They're very skilled at jumping.
Can you reset for people who joined us?
Yes. So right now we're about to release the mountain lions back into their enclosure. We've hidden food everywhere throughout. I think they're about to do it, so I'm going to stop talking.
Ready, so here they come. And so you can see mountain lions are wary creatures, and so they are going to, oh, there you go, jumping up. They are going to explore their area. We don't commonly have a lot of folks up here where we are in this observation area. It's not something they're used to every day, so they are a little bit cautious. But they'll find their interest, they'll find their bravery to come on out after a moment. Now, the rodents are often one of the choice treats, and so when they find something like a gopher, they're going to stop for a moment and enjoy that gopher. And so that's what's happening right now. And so both of these cubs did come to us when they were quite young. The female came to us about 6-8 months younger. So she's been here for a few years now. And so when she came in, she was an orphan. We don't know fully what happened to the parent, but they just wandered onto an agricultural property. And so she was profoundly dehydrated and emaciated on her initial intake. So she took a lot of nursing care to be able to get to a stable state, and is now thriving here at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue. And so pumas, mountain lions, cougars, 3 names for the same species. They are all, and so a lot of people do have apprehension, but this is a very generally respectful species. They don't want to interact with humans. They don't want to be bothered by humans. And so often, you'd be surprised, they probably are coming near you routinely if you're out in mountain lion habitat, but they don't want to have that altercation. And so they will, and so you won't even know that they're there. There are a number of mountain lions in Sonoma County that actually have radio collars on them as part of an excellent organization, the Living with Lions group, and Dr. Quinton. And so we do know that they do come towards some areas of human habitation. They have to. We don't have enough truly wildland left in Sonoma County for them not to. And so we have one of our mountain lions is out and investigating her area. And so you can see she's finding all of the treats that were left around. For those of you who weren't with us initially, the mainstay of the mountain lion's diet is a pre-manufactured large cat diet. It's made for large cats in captivity, such as zoos. Once upon a time, we did feed these guys out much more roadkill venison, but that has its own health concerns, and so we didn't want to repeat some of the issues we had in the past, and so they've been transitioned to this diet instead. They do get the occasional other treats, such as the gophers that they're enjoying today. So what questions do we have?
There's that one from Carrie. How do they get sedated for their medical exams?
All right, so in terms of sedation for medical exams, so for those of you who were there with us at the beginning, or for those of you who wouldn't, you can always see this live cast again as a recording. We'll post it on Facebook, and we'll post it on our YouTube channel. They do walk into a narrow chute every day for them to be confined while we clean out their large yard. When they're in that narrow chute, they're actually accustomed to actually receiving injections if need be. And so for medical exams, we do give them a sedative through that means.
What do you think is a common misconception that the public has about mountain lions that you'd like to correct?
So the biggest misconception would be that mountain lions frequently... Oh, are we back?
Yes.
Okay. So biggest misconceptions would be that mountain lions are scary beasts that are trying to harm people. They are actually very bashful around people. There's only been a handful of direct human mountain lion interactions in the last 150 years in Sonoma County, in California, and since that's been tracked since the middle 1800s. And so they are a species that likes to coexist and can coexist as long as we give them space. And so in terms of spay or neuter, these two individuals, because we knew they came in too young to have the skills for surviving the wild, Oh, she notices the big smelt sickle. These two individuals I did spay and neuter. And the reason to spay and neuter partially was so that they can cohabitate here, and thus not having to worry, because we don't want to create more cubs in captivity. That's not the goal. But the other issue is that spay and neuter will prevent certain diseases, especially the females, to prevent in terms of pyometras or mammary tumors. Big cats are prone to such things as well. I've had to be involved in one tiger case that was a pyometra, and so certainly that can be a catastrophic situation. And so for their health and longevity, they are spayed and neutered.
What is the lifespan of a mountain lion?
So lifespan in the wild is going to be a bit up for conjecture. Lifespan in captivity, it's going to be actually relatively comparable to domestic cats. In general, the larger the animal within a species, the shorter the lifespans. For example, like Great Danes only live half the lifespan of a Chihuahua, but between species, larger species can be longer lived, but the true data in the wild is not always easy to come by. But you can think about teens, or if they're lucky, low 20s in captivity.
Tessa asked how old are they when they leave their parents?
So they're going to be with their parents for a couple years, and so they are going to receive that training from their mom for over a year. And so it's not until they'd be a couple years old they'd particularly have all the skills they need.
And then is Charlie still in the transport?
So it looks like he is choosing to hang out on that corner of things. And so he has the choice to come out, but he is a little bit more bashful. So we have brave Nicole at the moment.
Where do you get the gophers?
The gophers. So some of the gophers were trapped right here on the property. We do have our garden as well. And then there's also some exclusion individuals do things appropriately, not using poisons. And so there is a fellow known as the gopher guy, and he does bring gophers that were caught without any risk of having any rodenticides or toxins in them, and we do feed those out. And so
doesn't look like we have any after that.
okay.
Good shot of Nicole with a gopher there.
Yeah, and so in terms of rehabilitating mountain lions, it's an uncommon occurrence. It is still a political issue, and so we've had a couple come through the center, but until the last couple years, it was literally illegal to even consider releasing a mountain lion that came into rehab care. Now it is legal to be an option, but there is still things to be hashed out with the state, Fish and Wildlife, to make that actually implemented. And so we hope to work with them when the next appropriate case comes up. And so some of you may remember there was that young mountain lion that was seen downtown Santa Rosa last year. And so most mountain lion issues are going to be especially young males who are just, don't have quite the savvy skills just yet to stay out of public notice. And a lot of that just needs a little bit of hazing. And those individuals can still they don't need rehab care, they just need relocation within the immediate ecosystem where they were found, and they can be doing just fine. A lot of people are worried about mountain lions predating on their pets and their pet livestock, and so there are a number of things that you can do to make that unrealistic. There's all sorts of ways. If you have your backyard flock, your backyard, whether it be things like sheep or goats or chickens, there's a number of things you can do to make sure that the wildlife around us will not predate upon them. And so it is totally achievable to coexist and allow the wildlife to be wild. And so we can go into many details in a future live cast. We do have our educational barnyard where we have over 4 dozen such features to help keep the people's pet farm animals safe.
Got a few questions that came in. Do they hang out in prides like lions?
So nope, they don't tend to hang out in large groups. That is different than African lions. They are a completely different species, and so while the word lion is there, they are distinct felids, and so they don't tend to hang out in large groups.
Do they have retractable claws?
More or less. They have claws that are kind of on par with domestic cat claws or most other species cat claws, where they can pull back. Just the ligament on the end bone on the finger there can pull out or pull back, and so they have comparable features on that front.
How much food do they eat in a day?
Oh, you know, off the top of my head, I'd have to look up the exact amount. I would think we're talking a couple pounds, but it's not going to be a lot more than that. But I have to look at up the exact amount that we have on our feeding schedule. We do adjust it if needed, depending on their body condition score. And so for an ideal body condition score, you can still see the edge of the last rib. When you're looking at an individual, you don't want to be able to see all the ribs, but just seeing the edge on that last one means the animal is thin enough that it is a healthy weight. It is all too easy for these guys to get chubby in captivity, so we do have to be worried about that. And you can also look, another feature of the mountain lion is look at that tail, look at that impressive tail. And so these guys are mighty leapers. They do tend to jump quite high, and so they do need that tail for balance. And so not all felids are going to be as big a jumpers as mountain lions are, but they certainly do utilize their full muscular capacity on that front. And so there's a question there about gopher sprays and rodenticides on agricultural properties. Certainly we do have a very robust barn owl maintenance program. We have over 400 barn owl boxes that we've installed or maintained throughout Sonoma County, and we do encourage that to be one of the mainstays for rodent control. And we do work with a number of vineyards who actually do not use any rodenticides at all. So absolutely it is achievable in Sonoma County. There are alternatives available. And so the question about current laws if someone sees them on their property. So if you ever do see a mountain lion, you do want to and you are concerned, then the appropriate group, you can give us a call, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the State Fish and Wildlife Service that has jurisdiction. And so if there's a healthy individual that doesn't have any injury and it's not a young orphaned individual, that is going to be for the wardens for the state to handle. And their general approach is going to be to educate the public, to tell folks what they can do to ensure that mountain lions are not going to be are going to have a adverse interaction with some people around. And so it looks like they're not particularly, so far our Smelt Sickles are not too enticing, which is the way it goes with enrichment. You just give it a try and see how it goes. Nope. And so, speak of it, maybe I invoked a little bit of interest, we'll see. And so, found a meatball instead. So going for the familiar food at the moment. All right, and so are mountain lions related to cheetahs? So mountain lions are kind of distantly related to cheetahs. In that they're all big cats. They're not going to be closely related, but they are still felids, so certainly they're in the same family in terms of our taxonomy terms. And so, as they would be to all the other big and small cats. And so, in terms of other cats we have in Sonoma County, of course, the other native cat we have is going to be the bobcat. And so, bobcats are more numerous in our area. And they're often going to be way bolder than mountain lions would be in terms of going to places where they can be seen, going to places where where they may try to go after that choice chicken or whatnot. They're going to be much more bold than often mountain lions are. All right, and so. All right, so if you want to reset right now, I'm just going to go, if you just want to let everyone know what we're doing real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to check on Charlie real quick.
Okay.
And be right back.
So we are in our mountain lion enclosure now at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue. We just did a mountain lion feeding. We provided some enrichment for them. Those are two smelt popsicles. Smelt is a type of fish that's very small. And that's those frozen blocks you see hanging on the fence there and on the rock there. We have Nicole over here, who's very curious about what we're doing here. And then we have our second mountain lion that chose not to come out, I think. And it's always their choice whether or not they want to come out or not. They're not used to quite this level of activity down here. Yeah, let's see if we have any questions here. So did you ever consider taking the young female found in Bakersfield to the Oakland Zoo? I'm not familiar with that one. Let's see. Oops, no, flip it back. Let's see, how did she get the name Nicole? Nicole, I believe, was named after Nicole Carrion with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. But I could be mistaken. And then Charlie, his full name is actually Charmander. Is he still in there?
Yeah, so.
Okay.
All right. So we are here in the Educational Ambassador area at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue. As you can hear, we do have other species around. Those are the coyotes. I'll just be quiet for a moment so you guys can enjoy some howling. We can go ahead and take a look back in the mountain lion enclosure while we're enjoying that, so it's not the fence sounds. Alright, so I'm not sure quite what got the coyotes so excited at the moment. Maybe there was a free-ranging wildlife that was around. Perhaps there was, I'm just focusing on Nicole for now. Perhaps there was, this is feeding time for some of the other animals, so perhaps there's food coming. But as you can hear, the coyotes do often get quite excited, as is natural for them. So we do have two actual mountain lions that share this enclosure, and so the female has been very bold in coming out. The doors were opened on both enclosures for both mountain lions at the same time. They both do have access to come on out, but the other mountain lion is deciding, you know what, I'm just content hanging out right here in my little chute, and so he's just hanging out. It may be because we're up here in the observation area, and that's something different, and so he's just being wary and staying back, as a wise wildlife may choose to do. We did attempt today to do some new enrichment in terms of some Smelt Sickles, and they are sitting there dripping and melting, and so far not piquing the interest of the mountain lions. It's likely that after we leave and they run out of finding all the rest of their food for the day, we'll see how much interest that garners from them. Within the rehab center, we do have cameras so we can see inside a lot of these enclosures. So we'll be keeping, unfortunately, we can't put them up to be live webcams. We don't have that capacity as of yet. Hopefully we'll build to it. But we'll be able to update you and let you know if they enjoy these particular treats or not. And so just to recap, here at Sonoma County Wildlife Rescue, we are primarily a rehabilitation and release organization, but we do have a couple token individuals of a lot of our native species for people to learn from, including these two mountain lions. On the rehab side, it's been a busy week. We had, I think, 14 or 15 animals come in yesterday alone. We do have dozens of opossums. We do have now our first orphaned raccoon infant in care as well. We got bats. We got turkey vulture, we got a couple raptors, and so even though this year is not as busy as other years are, we are still having a significant number of the injured and orphaned wildlife in our community needing our care. And so we are grateful for the opportunity to share the insight and the appreciation of all our native neighbors. And so mountain lions are going to be ones that we do share our area with. There are probably a couple dozen mountain lions in Sonoma County, and so we are glad that we can facilitate their safe coexistence. And so is there any last couple questions we should jump into as we taper out? All right, well then thank you guys very much. And so as long as the shelter in place remains, we'll continue these weekly live streams. We'll let you know the topic on the Monday before, and then we'll have the live stream on Thursday. That way, if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to ask them during these live streams, and we'll address them. I'm Dr. Dan Femini, the veterinarian for the facility. Thank you so much for spending this mountain lion moment with us, and stay safe.